Welcome back. If you've joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live from Channels Television. Well, as promised, the IDP figures in Nigeria's northeast is now standing at 1.4 million children as displaced by Boko Haram. A report, of course, coming from the United Nations Children's Education Fund. Joining me on the news at 10 to further discuss and take a look at this troubling figures is the Executive Director, Child Health Advocacy Initiative, Lola Alonge. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10.
Thank you, my pleasure being here.
We saw the figures there by the United Nations and then those of the under fives in Nigeria from the report we saw just before we went on break. How do you suppose that the displaced children will be taken care of in terms of their welfare?
Yeah, it's quite alarming, the figure we have now. Looking at the UNICEF report, 1.5 million children. And then the under five, most of them are about over 200,000. I think the first thing we should look at is the nutritional status. What kind of food are they being given? Are they having balanced diet? Because obviously, malnutrition is prevailing when they don't have enough food or good food to eat. So which means they must try to provide them with good food. I also heard about the outbreak of cholera in one of the camps, which means obviously maybe the water they're giving them is not good enough. Maybe they don't have good water. Maybe they are not disposing their waste properly. I think because of the children, they should make sure they provide them with good water.
Do you feel that the government, for example, is concerned enough to begin to have palliative measures in taking care of these children, or is the government not looking that way?
Oh, it's unfortunate. I hear a lot about what NEMA is doing, and I think the government is also trying to do a lot, but I think they haven't done enough at all. The state of the children there, it's quite alarming. When I heard about the cholera outbreak, I heard a lot of the children were actually sick. A lot of them were actually taken to, some even died in the process, which means they must put a lot in place to save these children. Even looking at things like, do they use insecticide-treated nets? Are they protected from malaria? What kind of environment are they exposed to? Are they even allowed to go to school? Is there any form of education whatsoever? Are they giving counseling in any way? Because I noticed most of them, some even experience situation where maybe they saw their parents dying. Some don't even know, they don't even have parents around, the orphans. What are they doing about that? I think...
What about the private sector? Do you see them having a role to play in this?
I think it's beyond government from what I can see now. They are doing a lot, but then this is the time for everyone to come on board and see how to support. And I'm looking at a situation where obviously some have been going there donating clothing, food and all that, but there's need to do more than that. And I'm looking at a situation where obviously I'm even looking at the religious bodies. I'm looking at like the Catholics, the Anglicans, the Methodists, even the Muslim groups too. I'm looking at a situation where they should be able to even adopt some of them or take them over. They have a lot of structures in place. They have health centers, they have schools, they have skills acquisition centers, they have the funds to run them. I believe there should be like a place set aside, take them there. Even if, I know government is saying they should go back to their community. Yes, that's fine. But I must say, until then, what happens to them? What happens to these children? We need to rescue them now. We need to do something now, which means everybody should come on board. And I believe the religious bodies have the capacity to actually take over these children. Get a place for them, give them good health care, make sure they have good food to eat, they have the shelter, they can go to school, they can even acquire skill if they have to, because we have a lot of youths amongst them. And I'm also looking at a situation where NEMA should go beyond just giving them food, but even look at how they're going to be more engaged. I'm looking at a situation where they can actually even have some farmlands they can acquire in the environment where they are, in the camps where they are, and let the youths amongst them go there and actually farm. They could actually eventually have to sell some of their products and earn some income. They can actually even eat some of what the products they have there. So they should be more engaged.
Having said this, how do you compel the government at state levels, especially where the IDPs are located, to respond even better ahead of what they have done so far? I
think they should be more committed. They're doing quite a lot. I wouldn't say they're not doing anything, but it's not just enough. I look at it and I see the situation in the camp there, and I look at it, is there really any future for these people? I can't see the government even saying they have a future plan for them. Yes, they are fighting Boko Haram, and I believe and I pray they actually are able to get Boko Haram out of Nigeria. But in the meantime, we must rescue these children. We must protect them. We must make sure they live a fulfilled life. We must make sure they have a future. Because the way they are now, if we're not, we're breeding another set of young people, youths, who don't even believe in Nigeria. They're just like this. All they see is war.
Are you saying if there isn't a check on this, we could be breathing potential
and that is
Boko
why
Haram members too?
If they are in the camp there, they must put in a lot to engage them. They must make sure they care for them. And then talking about those who can come around and actually adopt them and take them over, they should be able to give them a fulfilled life. Because the way they are there, even psychologically, they need counseling. I don't even see them even thinking of a bright future. Rather, it's like, oh, we're here. We don't even know what's going to happen. And anybody that comes around them, even to talk about anything evil, they can go ahead and join them. So we need to actually pay more attention to the children and the youths in the camp there and make sure they're properly engaged. And those who have to be adopted can be adopted. Because, for example, the children, you're saying go back to the communities. Who are these children, the orphans amongst them? Who are they going to go back to? Somebody must take them over.
So what would be your final word?
Oh, the government should be more open doing. Everybody should come on board. The private sector should join wherever they are. The NGOs are trying, but I must say the religious bodies should do more than just donating. They should take them over and try and give them a fulfilling life.
I want to thank you so much indeed. Lola Longe, she is, of course, the Executive Director, Child Health Advocacy Initiative. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. A 24-year-old Nigerian mother, Terry Esther, was attempting to cross the Mediterranean on a dilapidated dinghy with about 100 other migrants and refugees when she went into labor. The boy was born while the boat made its way to Lampedusa, the southernmost European island. Esther incredibly managed to safety and gave birth to her little baby boy with the help of a doctor aboard the Italian rescue vessel while still at sea. The Italian Coast Guard launched a dramatic rescue to save the desperate group from the sea. She's one of 300,000 refugees and migrants who have crossed the Mediterranean into Europe this year, up from 219,000 in the whole of 2014. While the lady has risked her life and her baby to search for the so-called golden flesh, efforts are being made in Edo State, Nigeria's south-south region to encourage people to stay back in the country by providing them with viable options. The risks involved in illegal migration include extortion, deprivations to death of migrants before they even get to their destinations. Most people involved in this illegal migration believe it's cheaper, with little consideration to the risks involved on the way. In Edo State, statistics have shown it has the highest number of illegal migrants scattered across Europe. And the state and various groups have embarked on checkmating this movement by introducing reintegration schemes aimed at reorienting youths through farming.
In the 16-hectare arable farmland in Ogwada community of Ovia Northeast Local Council of Edo State, the Returnees Reintegration Farm is sited. This agricultural capacity project is designed to help integrate men and women that are jobless and restive, who returned after a terrible experience trying to migrate out of the country. The farm, divided into different sections, is still manned manually without modern farm tools. There are cassava, palm trees and cocoa sections in the farm with the aim of expanding to plantain and banana sections. The project, which started 3 years ago, is enhanced to create employment, provide food security and create social integration of youths. The land has been donated by Osaro, a community leader who brought the idea of fight against illegal migration by integrating returnee migrants into the system through farming.
I see it as a quota to absorb them. So I did it to sensitize them to know, even with the little we have done through this cassava, I think they've started seeing the dividends. And two, I did it to complement the effort of the state government, because he said they have been trained by the state government on various areas of agriculture. They are going to develop on domesticated feather beds and fisheries. So I gave them a plot to integrate them.
A total of 280 returnees are running the farm. Okodwa, president of the Returnees Migrants in Edo State, gives us insight into the farm.
I was actually leaving the country to Europe, to Italy, precisely to see how I can make a life better for me when I found out that there was no much job to do for the country. You understand? So I left the country. You know what happened? From there, they apprehended everybody. Welcome to Libya. I want to actually find my way out of their detention and said no. I need to redefine my roots. When we actually came back, we set up a program. What did we do at that time? We moved to government house, about 2,000 of us. The government of Edo State trained 280 people to see how they can engage them in agriculture. And that is what we also inform our agricultural producers now. So long we want to use the land to promote our ideology, what we believe in. And what we believe is to see how we can get youth engaged in meaningful venture. What we believe is how we can promote entrepreneur. What we believe is how we can create a sustainable means of livelihood for people. So that people will live a life that is full of dignity. You understand? We're not thinking of, no, let me leave the country before I make my life, because I believe we can also make it here in Nigeria.
The experience of many migrants who try to cross the various African borders and their complex security, crime and corruption system is a real human odyssey, and in many cases lack traces and witnesses. The journey is not only expensive, but hazardous as far as life is concerned.
The matriarch of the Awolowo family, Chief Hannah Idowu Didiolu Awolowo, HID as she's fondly called, is dead. She died shortly after a meeting on Saturday with her family members. She was said to have been a part of the meeting for the planning of her 100th birthday on November the 25th this year. The late Hannah Idowu Didiolu Awolowo was born November 25th, 1915, to a modest family in the small Ikenne community of Ogun State, southwest of Nigeria. She was married to the late politician Obafemi Awolowo and was a successful businesswoman and astute politician. She stood in for her husband in the alliance formed between the NCNC and the Action Group, called the United Progressives Grand Alliance, UPGA. In the meantime, the President Muhammadu Buhari has sent his condolence message after receiving news of the passing away of Chief Mrs. Hannah Didiolu Awolowo. In a message issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, President Buhari described the late matriarch as a pillar of strength to the sustainability of Nigeria as a nation. President Buhari believes that Chief Mrs. Awolowo will always be honored for the indelible legacy of very significant behind-the-scenes contributions to communal, state, regional and national development which she has left behind. Over now to the environment, and experts are worried that by 2025, every 3 metric tons of fish from the ocean will produce 1 metric ton of solid waste. With this figure, they are now advocating for measures that will ensure that the ocean waterways and the coastal lines are kept clean.
The ocean plays a vital role in the global economy by providing food and a source of income for millions of people. More than 50 million people work in the fishing and aquaculture sector around the world. But the big question is, how clean is the ocean, the waterways and the shores? That is the reason the U.S. Consulate General, in collaboration with Lagos State Ministry of Environment and other partners, are gathered at the front of the Consulate dock on Walter Carrington Crescent in Victoria Island, Lagos, to commemorate the 30th International Coastal Cleanup Day.
Dr. Fulabi. Hello, ma'am.
Straight to the business of the day. The Acting Consulate General, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Lagos State, and other volunteers together clean the shore.
Today we are celebrating the International Cleanup Day. Coastal Cleanup Day, which means, around the world, people are coming together to look at the coastal line to make sure that plastics are not, are picked up and cleaned up. Because in order for us to sustain a clean health, we do need to look after what's happening to our ocean. Are we really, with all the plastics that you saw today in the ocean, it really compromises biodiversity, which is essential for our life.
We want everyone to come on board, especially inhabitants of our coastal areas. We want them to ensure that they don't drop their waste inside our waterways. We want them to ensure that the plastic bottles that they use don't end up in our waterways. They are harmful to our water.
Some volunteers appeal to the people to refrain from dumping any type of waste into the ocean.
At the beaches, to start with, because the beaches are the, more fun places people go to have fun and dispose all of this recycling. The beaches should be able to have waste bins, recycling, sorting, the perishable and the non-perishable bins. We should start collecting right at, even if we came to the beach to have fun, we should also think about this very fragile environment that we have, this world that we have. It's just all that we've got.
It's very important that it's not polluted with waste. There are some inhabitants living in this water. They need to live, they need to exist. And so this is why we do this. People who walk around will see what we are doing and they will emulate what we are doing.
At the end of the event, all participants agree that proper disposal of waste will improve the health of the people, wildlife and the local economy.
Still ahead, we'll be looking at the International Coastline Cleanup Day. We'll be joined on the news at 10 by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Lagos State, Mr. Oluwatoyin Onisarotu. He'll be joining us much later on the news at 10. Also, the Central Bank of Nigeria injects dollars into the interbank market. Stay with us.